Imagine for a moment a quiet Sunday morning in the heart of Berlin. The air is crisp and the scent of freshly baked rye bread drifts through the cobblestone streets of a neighborhood that has stood for centuries. You hear the deep resonant tolling of the bells from the Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial Church, a sound that has defined the German soul and its Christian heritage since the days of the emperors. But then, as the echoes of the bells begin to fade into the morning mist, another sound emerges. Subtle at first, but unmistakable in its rhythmic beauty. From just a few blocks away, a melodic call rises into the air, weaving through the apartment blocks and over the Tiergarten. It is the Adhan, the Islamic call to prayer. For many of you watching, this image might seem like a startling contradiction. How did Germany, the land of Martin Luther, the cradle of the Protestant Reformation, and the industrial heart of the Western world, become one of the most significant hubs of Islam in the modern era? Today we are diving into a story that is often whispered about in heated political debates, but rarely understood in its full human depth. We are looking at a Germany that is undergoing its most profound cultural transformation since the fall of the Berlin Wall. But there is a secret, a hidden chapter of history buried beneath the soil of a small town called Wünsdorf that changes everything we thought we knew about why Islam is here. It is a story involving emperors, secret jihads, and a mosque built not for prayer, but for war. Why is this happening now? And what does the future hold for a nation that is at once welcoming and deeply afraid? By the end of this film, you will see a side of Germany that the evening news never shows you. You will discover how a group of guest workers who were never supposed to stay became the backbone of the German economy, and why the most important medical breakthrough of our century was actually a gift from this very community. But first, we must go back to a time when the crescent and the eagle first shook hands, long before the modern world began. To truly understand Islam in Germany, we have to look past the modern headlines and travel back over 250 years. It may surprise you to learn that the kings of Prussia, the disciplined, militaristic founders of the modern German state, were deeply fascinated by Islam. Frederick the Great, a man of the Enlightenment and a brilliant military strategist, famously declared that all religions were equal and good. He went as far as to say that if Turks and heathens came and wanted to populate his country, he would build them mosques and schools. In the 18th century, the first Muslims in Germany were not refugees or laborers. They were diplomats, royal guards, and scholars. There was a genuine fascination with the East in the royal courts of Potsdam. But the real turning point, the one that changed the demographics of the nation forever, happened in the smoke and rubble of 1945. After the Second World War, Germany was a broken nation. Its cities were leveled, its infrastructure destroyed, and most tragically, its workforce was decimated. This was the era of the Wirtschaftswunder, the economic miracle. West Germany was rebuilding at a lightning pace, but there was one thing missing: human hands. In 1961, the West German government signed a historic recruitment treaty with Turkey. They were called Gastarbeiter, or guest workers. The name itself implied a temporary arrangement. These men were expected to work in the dark coal mines of the Ruhr Valley and the roaring car factories of Stuttgart for a few years, save their money, and then return to their villages in Anatolia. They brought their faith in their small suitcases, praying in what were known as backyard mosques, converted garages, basements, and abandoned warehouses. But as the years turned into decades, the guests did not leave. They brought their wives and children. They opened grocery stores and barbershops. They did not just help build German cars, they helped build the modern German identity. They traded their temporary status for a permanent home, transforming Islam from a foreign curiosity into a permanent German reality. As we move into 2025 and look toward the landscape of 2026, the data paints a picture of a nation in a state of profound transition. If you were to walk through Germany today, you would be walking through a country where approximately 6.5 million Muslims reside. To put that into perspective, imagine the entire population of a country like Denmark or Singapore living within Germany's borders, all sharing a common faith. This represents roughly 8% of the total German population. This is no longer just a migrant group, it is a vital demographic pillar of the Federal Republic. But the Muslim community in Germany is not a single uniform block, it is a vibrant and complex tapestry of cultures. About 75% of German Muslims are Sunnis, many of Turkish descent, reflecting those original guest worker roots. However, the landscape has shifted dramatically over the last decade. Since 2015, with the arrival of over 1 million people fleeing conflict in Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, the community has become more diverse than ever before. We also see a significant Shia minority, making up about 7 to 10% of the Muslim population, alongside the Alevi community, which holds a unique and influential place in German social and political life. What is most striking for us to consider is the age gap between the communities. While the traditional ethnic German population is aging rapidly, with a median age of nearly 48, the Muslim community is significantly younger. This means that in the coming years, the doctors who treat the elderly, the engineers who maintain the high-speed trains, and the teachers who educate the next generation will increasingly come from Muslim households. The future of the German pension system and the stability of its healthcare network is, quite literally, being carried on the shoulders of this younger generation. What does it actually look like to be a Muslim in Germany today? It is a blend of two worlds that have learned to coexist in fascinating and often unexpected ways. If you take a trip to neighborhoods like Berlin-Neukölln or Marxloh in Duisburg, you will see the famous German Ordnung, the love for order, cleanliness, and punctuality, meeting the legendary hospitality of the Middle East. You will see grandmothers in traditional headscarves buying organic German rye bread and local honey, while their grandchildren, speaking flawless German with a sharp local accent, debate the latest football scores over a doner kebab. Ironically, the doner kebab was perfected in Berlin by Turkish immigrants and is now more popular across Germany than the traditional sausage. In the city of Cologne, this presence is marked by the Cologne Central Mosque. It is a stunning piece of modern architecture made of glass and flowing concrete. It does not look like a traditional mosque from the Ottoman era. It looks like a German mosque. It is transparent, open, and bold, designed to show that Islam has nothing to hide. It serves as a community center where German neighbors are invited for coffee and dialogue, breaking down the walls of mystery. However, this lifestyle is not just about food and buildings. It is about the Späti culture, late-night convenience stores, often run by immigrant families, which have become the social lifeblood of German neighborhoods when everything else is closed. It is about the Friday prayer rush in industrial zones where workers take their short breaks to fulfill their spiritual duties before returning to the high-tech assembly lines of Mercedes-Benz or Siemens. This is the new German middle class, a group of people who are navigating the delicate balance between their ancestral traditions and their modern European reality. But beneath this surface of integration and shared life lies a growing and heavy tension. Despite the decades of hard work and contribution, the path has not been easy for many. In recent years, a shadow has grown over the Federal Republic, creating an emotional and social wall that is often harder to cross than the one that once divided Berlin. This is the great challenge of the German story. Can a nation that prides itself on its welcome culture truly accept Islam as a permanent part of its soul? The rise of political movements like the AfD has brought a specific type of rhetoric into the mainstream. Headlines often focus on the headscarf debate or the perceived lack of integration in certain districts. For a 60-year-old Muslim man who has worked 40 years in a German factory, paying his taxes and following every law, being asked when he is going back home is a profound emotional blow. He is already home. The statistics are sobering and reflect a difficult reality. Reports of discrimination in the housing market and the workplace are frequent. Research shows that a woman with a Muslim-sounding name or a photo in a headscarf often has to send many more job applications than her ethnic German counterpart just to receive a single interview. There is also the fear of parallel societies, neighborhoods where integration has stalled and where young people feel rejected by the country they were born in. This creates a painful cycle of isolation. The more the minority feels rejected by the majority, the more they retreat into their own circles for safety and identity, which in turn fuels the fears and prejudices of the majority. It is a high-stakes psychological struggle that is testing the very foundations of German democracy. Yet, while the challenges are real and often painful, the successes achieved by this community are nothing short of miraculous. When the world came to a sudden and terrifying standstill in 2020 due to the global pandemic, all eyes turned to Germany for a solution. And who was it that delivered the world's first and most effective defense? The story of the BioNTech vaccine is perhaps the greatest symbol of Muslim integration in history. The two brilliant scientists behind the breakthrough, Uğur Şahin and Özlem Türeci, are the children of Turkish immigrants. Dr. Şahin's father was a humble guest worker at a Ford factory in Cologne. These children of immigrants did not just integrate, they saved millions of lives globally and provided a massive boost to the German economy. But the success stories are everywhere if you look closely. Look at the German national football team, a symbol of national pride. Names like İlkay Gündoğan represent the new Germany. They wear the eagle on their chest with pride, representing a nation that is no longer defined solely by bloodline but by shared talent and shared values. In the world of literature, film, and the famous German Mittelstand, the small and medium-sized businesses that are the engine of the nation, Muslim entrepreneurs are thriving. They are opening tech startups in Munich and revitalizing dying high streets in the eastern parts of the country. They are proving every day that you can be deeply devoted to your faith while being a productive, patriotic, and essential part of the German state. They are the living proof that the fusion of cultures can produce something stronger than the sum of its parts. Now we come to the part of the story that even most Germans have never heard in their history classes. We often think of Islam in Germany as a modern phenomenon born from the labor needs of the 1960s. But what if I told you that over a century ago, the German Empire tried to use Islam as a strategic weapon of war? During the First World War, the German government built a very special and mysterious place in Wünsdorf near Berlin. It was called the Halbmondlager, or the Half Moon Camp. It was here that the first mosque ever built on German soil was erected, but it was not built out of a spirit of religious tolerance or multiculturalism. It was a prisoner of war camp designed specifically for Muslim soldiers who had been captured while fighting for the British, French, and Russian armies. The German strategy was to treat these Muslim prisoners with extraordinary luxury and religious respect. They were given high-quality halal food, allowed to practice their faith with total freedom, and were even provided with an Arabic-language newspaper called Al-Jihad. The goal was to convince these prisoners that the German Kaiser was a friend of Islam and that they should switch sides to fight against their colonial masters. This mosque was a masterpiece of wooden architecture, with a tall, elegant minaret that rose high above the Prussian pine trees. It was a place where German military officers and Muslim imams stood side by side to plan a global revolution. While the military strategy ultimately failed to change the course of the war, the ruins of that camp remain a shocking reminder that Germany's relationship with the Islamic world is not a recent accident. It was a calculated, deep-rooted engagement that goes back to the highest levels of the imperial government. The roots of the crescent in German soil go much deeper than the guest workers of the 60s. They are watered by the secret history of the Great War itself. As we stand here today looking at the Germany of 2025 and 2026, we see a nation at a historic crossroads. We see old traditional churches being converted into apartments, art galleries, or libraries due to a lack of attendance, while mosques in the same cities are overflowing with the energy and devotion of the youth. Germany is no longer the monochrome uniform society. It was in the middle of the last century. It has become a kaleidoscope of different cultures, faiths, and complicated histories. The guest worker has become the grandfather, and the foreigner has become the specialist doctor. But the question remains, and it is a question that will define the next 50 years of European history. As the physical and cultural landscape of Germany changes, is the nation losing its original identity, or is it finally finding a new, more resilient one? And the historic values of the German Constitution and the ancient traditions of Islam create a new kind of social stability that the world has never seen before? What do you think? Is Germany a successful model for a globalized world? Or is it a warning of the deep tensions that arise when different worlds collide? The church bells and the call to prayer are both ringing over the streets of Berlin today. The real question is whether we are listening to them as two different, competing sounds or as the beginning of a new and unique melody. Please share your thoughts and your own experiences in the comments below. If you found this journey through the hidden history of Germany valuable, consider subscribing for more deep-dive documentaries into the stories that shape our world. Until next time, keep looking beneath the surface of the headlines.